talent crunch is huge in our country right now, and something needs to be done to address that. We also asked about goals and targets, and it was 50-50. Half of the companies in the sample said we have gender goals, we have targets, and the other half said we actually don't. We asked about reviewing your gender metrics by leadership, and senior leaders and HR, that's where it seems to sit for most of the companies. Now, this needs to be taken in the context that in India, HR is a very important function, and it reports directly into the CEO. In most of the other nations, diversity is a separate office, and it might have a dotted line. So it sits in an important part of the organization. So we should take that with the cultural context that we're in India. We also asked about engaging men. If majority of your workforce is male, if majority of the top of the house is male, men are not a part of the problem, they're actually a part of the solution. If you're not going to engage them in creating an inclusive workplace, chances are it's not a sustainable workplace that you'll end up with. 34% of the companies said they offer gender awareness training for men, and almost a checkbox training that 1 to 2 times a year they offer that. The question to ask yourself as students, as future executives, as current executives or leaders, is that what are the ways in which your organization can engage men in this journey? You can have an employee resource group for women. Does that mean men feel it's a zero-sum game, so now I'm going to lose out? What kind of messages are you sending across to the organization? What does it mean to focus on diversity? And communication, as Mr. Vyas said, is so important. The messaging from the top is so critical in setting the tone right for diversity, getting it right from the start. Those are, again, critical pieces to be aware of. I'll walk you through a few more best practice examples, how other companies are doing it, to just give you an idea about what is important. You can download these practices from our website. Again, they're as part of the report. HSBC India decided their objective was to recruit and retain talent and to create a diverse workforce. And to do that, they arrived at the conclusion after a host of internal focus groups and surveys that flexible work seems to be the need of the hour. So they decided to have staggered work hours, telecommuting, part-time. They offered all of those. But they also did something that a lot of other companies, don't do or don't do it correctly, because HSBC was actually able to retain, and they tracked that. They offered workshops for their managers so that the managers are equipped to have that conversation before the woman walks out of the door. So as part of your onboarding as a new talent, as part of your year-on discussions, there are conversations about life career cycle. Where are you at? What do you think are some of the push-pull factors? How can the organization support you? And the menu of programs is then presented. They also do something where they share the success stories, however small the story is, however small the success is, by sharing it across the organization, you're changing the culture of the organization. You're making it possible for others to say, oh yeah, it can be done. If the sales team could do it, we can most certainly do it. So I think those are other ways to spread the story, to change the culture. HSBC was actually able to retain 4% of their employees who had resigned or expressed intent to leave. So again, by able to track that, they were able to go back the next year and say, these are important, we need to continue doing these things. So keep in mind that utilization and tracking piece. Aditya Birla Group has a talent management framework or a process that they're very proud of. They've used it to institutionalize and standardize talent identification. There are minimum standards, competencies, and frameworks that are clearly communicated across the organization. And what's interesting about this practice is the feedback loop. So if you seem to fall off the radar for some reason, you don't have that competency, that's not the end of you at Aditya Birla Group. They'll actually work with you. If they identify potential in you, they'll work with you to bring you up to mark, to keep that pipeline robust. And I think that's an important piece. Clearly, senior leadership commitment, as Mr. Vyas spoke about it, Dr. Brooks spoke about it, it has to be top down. I mean, that's the messaging that has to come across the organization, that the company is serious about it and it's a value. If it doesn't fit with you, then clearly this might not be the workplace for you. This is in your DNA. That's how we do diversity and inclusion. The final piece here is Infosys. They decided to create a gender-sensitive work environment to attract and retain talent, but also to become the employer of choice for women. One of the things they did, which was interesting, was the global counselors. they decided to create global counselors for manager and above levels, where you can have conversations with these counselors about not just career, but personal as well, so that the work-life cycle piece is addressed and you don't just fall off the radar. Again, they offer a host of flexible work arrangements, including a satellite office, given some of the people in Bangalore office complained about commuting. I don't want to sit in traffic for 3 hours. So if there's a group of people, then they create a satellite office for you. So just little fixes go a long way in retaining people. They were obviously able to increase employee flexibility and enhance their managerial buy-in. With that, I'm going to stop here now, and I don't know if Dr. Siani would like to speak next, and then we can do Q&A rather than opening it now. Is that?
Good afternoon, everybody. First of all, I'm very grateful to IMT and especially Dr. Dogra for giving me this opportunity. And I must confess that what I'm going to say myself is far less in importance than what I have gained from these two great presentations. One of the finest ever, I must say. In fact, this picture which you are seeing, I was invited in London 2006. It was on diversity. It was for 3 days, but believe me, I didn't gain as much in those 3 days as I gained from these two presentations. And I'm very proud that we must clap for these companies and the amazing work that they are doing. Believe me, I did a research and it was published in Michigan, in an international journal. And my research did not reveal that optimistic result. It was very disappointing. In fact, I'm going to share with them and I'm going to inquire from them as to what methodology and who are the people and how it was done and all. But if this is true, I think this is something to celebrate, and this is something fantastic that here India has begun, and Indian corporates and HR is going to contribute to the march which we are all seeing, one of the greatest economies. In fact, there is a forecast that in 2050, India will be 80 trillion economy compared to just 1.4 trillion today, and US will be some 39 trillion economy. I'm very sure that if we have practices like this is going to do amazing things. These are the 4 things which I'm doing, and in fact, much of what I say has already been said. I'm just probably going to put a structure into that and also give you some, maybe some examples or to what they said. This was the way things were when we started globalization in our country, and this is how things appear to be today. There's a total chaos. And that chaos, people run away, industries are running away. There are many industrial groups which we used to hear, they don't exist anymore, or they are running some management school or something like that, and they've stopped calling themselves industrialists. They have run away because of the storm, and therefore what you need today is that you need, in this storm, you have to retain people, and you have to enthuse people, and you have to be long-termist and not short-termist if you want to sustain. And diversity, strategic human resource management is an inalienable part of this exercise. This is the way Earth is moving by yards every day, and industries are falling down, managers are falling down. A research reveals that in the last 3 years, 40% of the CEOs have been dismissed because of non-performance in the USA. It is because of the chaos created by the new realities globally, and of which anybody doing diversity management must ask this question as to what these realities are and how can we relate them to diversity management. To begin with, diversity discourse is with these two things: equal opportunities and inclusiveness. Our country, in fact, if you go abroad, a lot of questions are asked to you on what is it with India is talking about. India is talking about inclusivity today at the central level. In fact, as you may be knowing, we have 800 million people in this country who are almost poor. If you say officially, it has been estimated by one of the official commissions that we have 800 million people living on less than 20 rupees a day. And therefore, this is the biggest danger, and academics are challenging and warning that there is going to be a revolution if you do not attend to that. Just day before yesterday, I lost my bag from my car, and not only some 50,000 rupees of loss, not in money, but I think I had my 10 years research data all lost. Some poor boy must have done it on the petrol pump. And that's a symbol. It reminds me that we need to be inclusive at that level also. We may not just talk of corporate inclusiveness or what is the good that diversity management is going to do to corporates. As responsible citizens, I think we have to ask that larger question as well. And now, from inclusiveness, from reservations, affirmative actions through law and other things, we are now moving to diversity as a business case. This is what I was told to speak on, that it is good, it makes good business sense to manage diversity. And I want to say also that if you see some of the leading companies, and even from Mr. Vyas's presentation, that is clear, that they have begun talking not just of groups and collectives, gender, age groups, different cultures, regions, but I think it is very clear that we are moving to individual idiosyncrasies and individual diversities. The Gen Y diversity, what they want is totally very different, and they need to be managed as individuals. That's the message. I think there are two approaches to this. This is the traditional approach to diversity. We are now moving, as we see from both these presentations, great presentations, that we are moving to a broader approach, and which is valuing differences between groups and individuals. So we have three types of groups: disadvantaged groups, SCs, STs, OBCs, women, some races, disabled. This is the disadvantaged groups. Then we have cultural differences, people from Northeast and the kind of discrimination they face in Delhi, for example. Nationality, age groups, migrants, or the racialism which you face when you go abroad. I was in Greece and I was told to walk through the metal detector 3 times. I was the only brown, others were all white. And I felt very insulted, but they thought that I'm a terrorist or something. That's also the kind of discrimination which cultural differences because of your races, because of your color, that discrimination which you face. Cultural differences, regions, nationality, age groups, migrants. Because of that culture, people want to celebrate different festivals in different way, different kind of holidays. I was in a hospital on this chart, and there were a lot of people from Bihar, and they were saying why Delhi government has not declared Chhat as a holiday. And so that's what cultural groups demand, and what these two presentations also you saw that individuals, intelligence level, their training, their interests, their attitudes, personalities, aptitudes, the roles are all very different. And hence there is a business case for diversity. That is, I think, what is this business case? That workforce is changing, there is so much of migration and cross-culturalism. To my mind, I have written a case on Honda, if you see the Honda violence in 2005. And today in Honda, no union leader works. And the company suffered a huge loss. And this is the strongest trade union. And what is this? I think this is lack of diversity, sensitivity in the organization. The Japanese could not understand the requirements of the Indian workforce and how they emotionally felt hurt. And look at the price which they have paid. And to my mind, somewhat similar, if not exactly similar, is also the situation in the recent Maruti strike. They could not understand that they are all Gen Y workers. Their propensity to hit back if you don't treat them fairly is much higher than the middle-aged workforce of the Gurgaon plant. This is my perception, and I wrote it also that they need psychological connect. So this is the importance of this new workforce and the cross-culturalism which is becoming important. This is a global issue, and that the workforce is mixed today. Then in the service industry, it is not the robots which do the service. In the service industry, it is the people. And you have to deal people very differently, and these people are by and large white collar or even gold collar people. Their needs are very different. Their need for engagement are very different. They want flexible workforce. They are not like us that you are working and working and working. They want to enjoy life. And they are very, very different, and therefore
this flexibility, engagement, and humaneness warrants that you treat them differently and meet their diversity needs. There's a lot of customer pressure on companies these days. There's a thesis by Baruch Lev from New York University, and he found that it is the intangible generations by companies which determines their share price, the market cap. And today, and it is said that 80% of the market cap is the reflection of the intangibles which it has generated, and only 20% is the assets price, what is given in the balance sheet. And I'm of the firm view that by practicing diversity as a part of strategic human resource management, you are meeting the customer's expectation and you are creating that intangible which the customer is expecting. Customer as an investor and customer as an employee and customer as a buyer of your product, they want to see the solidity of your organization and the health of that organization, and they want to make deals with such organizations. Then Gen Y is, there is a new term, I don't know how many of you have heard, this is a gold-collared worker. The gold-collared worker does not want to have bath for 3 days with long hair, in chappals and with dog and all peculiar idiosyncrasies. And as Mr. Vyas very rightly said, it has to be managed very, very differently, and hence the need for diversity and a business case for diversity. And then work teams, creativity and innovations, all that is again very crucial. Innovations are done only highly creative people, and normal people cannot do innovation.